anyway. So I'm gonna just get on here and talk about money. Hey everybody, Kamari Ellis here. Welcome to the Finance Rebel Show. It's Sunday. I know in some parts of the country it's cold and snowy, and a lot of people are out watching football. So I figured I'd come on and talk about money. One of my favorite things. The Eagles are out, so I don't really care about football right now, what's going on. But I'm sure everybody's watching the Saints game. I'm sure somebody's out there watching the Patriots game, so it should be interesting. But today, I was going to cover a topic that somebody had inboxed me, and they said they wanted me to review it and get my thoughts on it. So it's called the 4 steps, the 4-step process to creating wealth. And I'll put the link in the article so everybody can follow along. But it's an article from Business Insider based off of a blog. But, as we normally talk about things here, you know what I got to do? I got to talk about stock first. So this week we had a great week in stock. Stocks rose somewhere between 2.5% and 3%. Stocks were lifted largely because of increased probability that the China deal will potentially go through. There will be no trade China deal. There won't be any trade tariffs on the Chinese. So they're talking about increasing their level of imports over the next couple of years. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be real interesting. I'll stop there. There we go. So that's going to be interesting. Like I said, everything rose. We also are in the middle of earnings season. Earnings season started off. So we had companies like Citigroup, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, United Healthcare, which is the biggest health insurance company in the country. Wow, I'm getting tongue-tied tonight. But they had positive earnings. Bank of America had positive earnings. They reported this week. Goldman Sachs had positive earnings. They had great earnings this week as well. So earnings season is starting to look pretty good. Netflix and Morgan Stanley also reported. Next week we'll have more reporting coming on as well. It's going to be very, very interesting because for you that don't understand what earnings season is in the stock market, it's basically like when you get your report card, right? You got to take your report card home, show mom and dad, show them if you did well or not. Same thing for companies that trade publicly, right? They got to show their investors their report card. If they earn money, if they've lost money, what their plan is to make money going forward. And so all those dates are important. Usually stocks report quarterly. So they usually report January, April, July, October. January, April, July, and October, or June and October. I always get them confused. But that's when they report. And they let everybody know what the financial health of their company is. If they made money, if they lost money, if they plan on laying people off. And might as well go on to our next topic because Tesla announced that they are going to be laying off staff. For all those who love Tesla, for all of you guys that love Elon Musk, he's a revolutionary. He's an innovator. But sometimes he acts like he doesn't have a care in the world. But this week, Tesla announced that they are laying people off. And as a result of that, their stock dropped almost 13% on Friday. But Tesla has a great, great fan base, to say. They also make a really good product. One day I plan on buying one myself. But I'm really interested in Tesla because I think the stock price is overpriced. Some people disagree with me. But I want to see what happens because last year, the tax incentive for electronic vehicles went away. So I'm really curious to see what happens this year. Now, again, Tesla has a, somebody selling my screen went black. Tesla has a very, very good fan base. Like I said, they have devotees, they have groupies. People love the product, they love the company, and they love Elon Musk. But I want to see what happens when the government takes away their ability to get a significant, very sexy tax write-off for green energy or electronic cars. So I'm really curious to see what happens with that one. We are going into, today is the shutdown, day 30. God, I'm tongue twisted, of the shutdown. Trump came back with some proposal for the wall. Let me find it here. He came back with a proposal for the wall. He's going to continue DACA for the Dreamers, for the 700,000 Dreamers. He's not going to look to actively prosecute them. He's asking for $5.7 billion in wall funding now. The number was $5 billion before. Then it went down to like $2 or $3 billion, and now it's back up to $5.7 billion. But the Democrats are saying that they are not interested whatsoever. And before I came on, I actually found a very, very interesting article. A really interesting article. What did I do with it? I think I lost it. But anyway, it said Republicans cheer on shutdown. So they went to a county, and here we go. I got it. They went to Colorado. So it's called Craig, Colorado. And I was in Colorado 2 years ago. I never heard of Craig. It's supposed to be a really small town. And I found some of the quotes in very, very interesting. So one guy said, it kind of makes me question what they do, speaking of the government, on a day-to-day basis, says Paul James, 31, who runs the town's social medical marijuana dispensary. If I don't miss them, what were they doing? So basically he's saying that he doesn't miss the government. The government provides absolutely no value to him. The government absolutely does nothing for him. So I can see how some people might say that in a very short term span of things. But I bet he would be concerned if the government started actively prosecuting medical marijuana, which the federal government actually has the right to do in many of the states. So it's going to be really interesting how this all comes along and goes along. Again, I don't see how people don't understand the government shutdown, but let's just go through it. So the government is partially shut down for the most part. The IRS, Department of Agriculture, Food and Drug Administration are all shut down, and TSA workers. But they're calling many of them back. So they have to work for free until they get this all figured out. So individuals will have to go to work, travel to and fro work on their own dime, bring their own lunch, the whole thing. But not only are they hurt or hindered, all the businesses, all the local shops, right, that make sandwiches, that sell coffee to government employee workers in DC and around the country, because we have federal government workers in all 50 states. Most of them are definitely in the DMV area, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. Many of them are out west as well. A lot of them are out west. But all of those businesses are affected. Now, TSA workers are actually quitting. So you're starting to see backups in some of the airports. Now, supposedly it's illegal for them to quit or call out sick, which they've been doing. But guess what? When people don't get paid and they have bills to pay, they're going to seek other means. That's just human nature. I don't know why government, especially Trump and all of them, because they're all guilty, right? No, I'm not a Trump fan. I'll be totally honest about that. He did not think this thing through at all. But all of them, Congress, both houses of Congress are I'll say this, they're not the best, right? Right. Somebody just replied on my Facebook feed, over 800,000 federal employees without pay. That is very true. And so that's going to start hurting the economy. It's already started to hurt the economy. And I think when you see more of the airline backups, because that means business is going to be stagnant. People travel Sunday and Monday, wherever they're going. Sometimes they travel in and out of town. They catch that flight wherever they're going, to home or to the work site. Consultants do this a lot. That's going to slow down business. And what that means is you're going to have a lot of business executives complaining to the current administration, complaining to the congressmen and congresswomen. So it's going to be very interesting, especially in this next upcoming election cycle. A lot of times people get mad at me because I talk a lot about politics and how politics matter. And they say, well, Kamara, you talk about money. Why are you talking about politics? Well, politics and money are inextricably linked, right? You can't separate them. All the policies at the federal, state, and local level affect us in our day-to-day lives. it's important to vote. Voting matters. Politics matter, right? We don't just want to stop at voting. But I keep bringing this up because many times, again, people don't realize how much day-to-day government affects us, right? Food stamps are about to be cut off. Many people don't realize that housing vouchers potentially could be cut off until we get funding again. I know I'm in Philly, right outside of Philly. They're saying 1.9 million people are on food stamps, what they call it SNAP now, right? But basically food assistance. That's a lot of people without food. You don't want to have a whole bunch of people starving. That's not a good look. That will not go over well for too long. So the longer you have that, the more potential unrest we could possibly have, right? So it affects us on a lot of levels. Yes, FDA. I thought I mentioned FDA, but yes, they're not screening food. I don't know if people know this, but the FDA is in charge of screening food. I would say some screenings are a little bit janky, to say the least. I don't trust them, but this country probably has one of the lowest levels of outbreaks from food, right? We do have some. That's interesting. But yeah, so many of the Republicans are cheering on this shutdown because they cannot see their day-to-day lives being impacted yet by the government shutdown. So we'll see how long this continues to go. Like I said, Trump has put something up on the table. The Democrats aren't really happy about it because he's only trying to press out DACA litigation for the next 3 years. So again, that's going to be very interesting. And he's asking for more money for his wall / fence / whatever you want to call it. But it's funny. Sometimes you need bad times to let people know just how good they really have it. So hopefully folks will be able to go through this, come out with this, and develop better spending habits. I just read the other day that your average person has about $4,500 in credit card debt. And so the one thing I know is those government employees who have that have credit card debt, they still got to pay those bills. Now, there are a lot of banks and financial institutions that are giving hardships and temporary loans, which is a great thing. But I'm still wondering, hopefully folks will be able to learn the lesson and know you can't trust government. But government jobs are really, really weird. People think people in government make a lot of money. They don't. Well, not all of them, right? You have different levels. You have different tiers. But there are plenty of people who make less than $40,000 that work for the government. They need help. You have a lot of people who are working with government. They can't go get a part-time job or a spare job. So my advice to a lot of them, because 5 years ago, I actually did a YouTube video. It's terrible, by the way, guys. Don't go look for it. About the last government shutdown under Obama. I think that one was like 17 days. This is the longest government shutdown to date. This probably is going to happen again because government is further and further apart. A lot of times it's about the look of things, basically looking like they're doing something, looking like they're for the people. And oftentimes it's my belief, my opinion that they are not. But I believe we're going to have more government shutdowns. So now is the time to be more vigilant about your finances, your personal finances, your savings, keeping your credit card levels down. All of those things are going to be pertinent, very, very important as we go on in the future, especially if you really want to do some things. And that's going to be a good lead into the main topic today. Like I said, somebody asked me to review an article and give my thoughts on it. And the article is called The 4 Steps to Wealth. And it's in the Business Insider. And so, okay, an early retiree who quizzed 100 millionaires about their money found there's a 4-step process to building wealth. I find it kind of interesting, but we can go through it. I don't like these one size fit all ways to make money, get wealth, these cookie cutter approaches to things, because in life, there is no such thing as a cookie cutter approach, right? Everybody needs custom. You can buy off the rack and it's cool, but the best is always custom. When you're doing anything for you, to grow your money, to grow your mind, to grow your finances, it's always best for it to be custom, because what works for you doesn't work for somebody else. So again, it's called the 4-step process to building wealth. So this guy interviewed over 100 millionaires, average everyday millionaires. And that term kind of comes from the Millionaire Next Door. Chris Hogan is making it really popular now with his new book. Kudos to him. But it's really talking about the Millionaire Next Door. The everyday millionaire is this lady or this man who goes to work every day or has a business every day. They usually live in a middle to upper middle class neighborhood. They tend to drive used vehicles, not brand new, a couple years old. They don't live flashy. They don't live extravagant. They're not balling out. They're not on the gram or on Facebook talking about grabbing the bag. For everybody that just joined, my name is Kamari Ellis. If you don't know me, or if you're new here, like my page, subscribe to my page, but be sure to like, comment, and share. I love answering questions. One of my big things is I'm the finance rebel, right? So I believe we need to rebel against the system that wants us to all be consumers and be broke and oppressed one way or another. So, share this out with somebody who's interested in growing their net worth, becoming more financially literate. But the everyday millionaire, again, is all about living regularly, but being very smart with your money, with being reasonable and logical with your money. They don't necessarily go off impulses when they go to the store. Some people say they have budgets. I find with a lot of the millionaires that I've worked with personally, they don't necessarily budget, but they know where everything goes. If you could understand that, right? They know where they spend just about every dollar. So they might not write down where every dollar goes and where they want it to go, but they know what they want to do and how they want to do it. And their mindset is always on how to make money, how to make more money with their money, how to make their money work for them, and not where to spend their money, right? So this article says the 4-step process is growing your income. So they're thinking about different ways on how they can grow their income, controlling their spending. Number 3 is investing in index funds. And number 4 is finding additional investment sources, especially real estate. So this guy's survey of 100 millionaires was all about finding these things, trying to find the habits, right? The habits of millionaires, the routines of millionaires, the thinking of millionaires. And so from my experience and my work, my over 20 years of work between accounting and investing, some of these are true. Like number 1 is definitely true. They try to figure out ways to grow their income. First and foremost, that's their thing. Most of them are business owners, though. Most millionaires are business owners. Now, with that said, you can become a millionaire by working a job. There's a lot of job shaming going on now. Kind of makes me sick, because some of the propaganda and rhetoric that's being shared around the internet, around the world, especially on these social medias, is that everybody needs to be a boss. Everybody needs to have a job. Everybody needs to have a business. And I say, you need to go where your strength is. So that's the one thing the millionaires I know, they usually work towards their strengths. So sometimes you can possibly be inside of an organization that has way more resources than you, and you can leverage that organization to do your life's work. Sometimes, not always. All right. Sometimes you can use that organization to grow your skill set and get paid all at the same time, right? Sometimes, not always, but a lot of times, right? So anytime, people are professing this one size fit all, which I just talked about, it nauseates me. It makes me sick. Run from them. Be very, very careful. They have a limited mindset. There's plenty of millionaires that work 9-to-5 jobs, especially if you understand how to grow and invest your money. All right. So like I said, the number 1 principle was growing their income. So they're thinking about how to make money. If they do have a job, many times they might have a side hustle, or they figure out ways how to be an Entrepreneur. Anybody know what an entrepreneur is? If you do, put a 1 in there. Put a 1 in the box and let me know you know what an entrepreneur is. So, but an entrepreneur is someone who has an entrepreneurial mindset but knows how to work within the constructs of a company to utilize the company to create value for that company or organization and create value for themselves all at the same time. A lot of times people think getting wealthy is all about them, extracting as much money from people. And you might hear me say that, but there's a lot more thought process behind that. While you're extracting money from people, you're giving way more value up front. And that's what an entrepreneur understands, just like an entrepreneur, right? An entrepreneur understands they need to give value for the work that they're doing. Thank you for the ones. I see everybody's putting the ones in. They understand that people need to get, hey, Kia, they need to understand that anybody there in service of, right? Because that's the other thing. People always call themselves bosses or self-made, right? When you are in business, even when you're at a job, you are of service. You are of service to someone. So you have to figure out how to best serve, right? We are all servants to one way, shape, form, size, or color. We are all servants. So you have to deliver value, benefits that help other people or your organization get to where they want to go. So you have to be able to humble yourself and say, how can I use my gifts, my God-given gifts and abilities to help other people, my clients, or my organization? All right. So number 2 in this 4 steps to building wealth. If anybody has questions about this, be sure to put them in. I'll come to them at the end. I am broadcasting live on Instagram and Facebook. I might not be able to say hi to all of you right off because, I'm trying to keep everything going, trying to keep the conversation going. But number 2 is controlling your spending. So it's really hard to become wealthy if you spend everything you get. My old boss used to say most people have what's called the spender's disease. If any of y'all know what the spender's disease, put a 1 in the comments below. I talked about it a little bit earlier, right? But he said, and you'll hear me say it again because I kind of borrowed that one, AKA stole it, right? So many people have the spender's disease. They have the spender's disease. So whenever they get money, the first thing they want to do is they want to spend money. If any of you all have ever read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, the key phrase in there is a part of all you earn is yours to keep. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. So that principle brings about paying yourself first, not spending first, but paying yourself first. So if you're paying yourself first, you get to keep a piece of it, right? If you're paying yourself first, you get to keep a piece of it and let it build and accumulate so you can then invest in bigger and better things that make you more and more money, or that can be of more and more value. So I did see somebody that made a very, very good point on my Instagram feed. Mint.com is a great way of controlling your expenses if you use it. I'm a big proponent of Mint. I have some of my financial coaching clients use Mint to track their expenses, and it can be really, really good when used properly. But yes, people that build wealth do control their spending. They're very mindful of their spending. Again, everybody doesn't necessarily use budgets, but they're mindful of their spending. So that's number 2. Number 3, they invest in index funds, investing in index funds. So if anybody knows what an index fund is, it's basically a basket of various investments. It can be stocks, it can be bonds, it can be real estate, and you get the opportunity to invest in them to give you more diversification, basically to spread your money across different baskets, right? You heard the topic or the saying that you should never put your eggs all in one basket. So that's what investment funds do. If anybody's familiar with Vanguard, that's in the Philly area, Jack Bogle recently just died. This week he died on Wednesday. He is the biggest inventor of that, or the biggest pioneer of that. There were some others, but he was the one who really redefined the industry. So if you get a chance, look up Jack Bogle. And Jack Bogle's whole theory was most people that get paid to manage money, myself included, can't beat the overall stock market, right? So it'd be better to just buy an index fund, basically a basket of investments that mirror the stock market, and just follow that performance and just invest in that. And that does work because on average, since about World War II, the stock market has returned anywhere from 6.5 to 8.5% return on average. So when you add that up over time, that becomes a pretty penny. So this article is saying the third step is investing in index funds. So I agree with investing in index funds. I just don't think that's the only thing you should do. But if you're looking at a core cookie cutter approach to building wealth, that's fine. That's fine. And, part of the index fund, part of the theory and philosophy behind investing in index funds is making things simple. The wealthy like things simple, usually. Again, these are generalizations. Again, most people cannot fit into cookie cutter categories. So they like things simple. They like them efficient. And index funds also are usually cheaper. All right. The fee to use them are typically lower than any other way of paying somebody else to invest money for you. So that's why this guy who surveyed the 100 millionaires, he said they like. And then finally, they invest in additional investment sources, namely real estate. Now, I know everybody loves real estate. All my real estate buddies, my real estate investors, we kind of play back and forth because I tell people I'll take the stock market over real estate any day. Most people that become billionaires made it from the stock market, not from real estate. Now, you do have a lot of people who have real estate. They'll have a piece here or there. Again, a lot of my clients, some of my associates, they invest in real estate and the stock market. They usually do both. But they have less of a headache from the stock market than what they do from the real estate a lot of times. So it's pretty interesting to see how that dynamic kind of goes back and forth. I know some people, all they want is real estate. They don't trust the markets because they don't have control over it. Now, if you're a type person that needs control over your life, you can go with real estate. But my argument to them is always, you really don't have control over your real estate either, because there's things like eminent domain. There's things like I think about it. You have 4 stages of wealth, right? So it's not necessarily steps or process, but you have 4 stages to wealth. So accumulation, management, transfer, and distribution. Now, anytime I talk about wealth, I'm always talking about it in terms of legacy as well, right? So this article talked about wealth purely from the individualistic standpoint. When I talk about wealth, I talk about it from an individualistic standpoint as well, but I also talk about it from a family and community standpoint as well, because that to me is the real differentiator. So when you look at wealth accumulation, it's how you make money, right? Whether it's a business, whether it's your job, and figuring out how to maximize. So that's very similar to their number one step, right? Growing your income. I just say wealth accumulation. How can you start to generate income and then take that money and then invest it? All right. So wealth accumulation then leads to wealth management, because you're making money. You figure out how to make the money in the best way that you can make money. Not the best way Johnny or Sarah down the block do it, but the best way you can do it. Because again, everybody has different talents and gifts. I know, quick story. A buddy of mine's dad, I've been trying to interview this guy, but he won't do it. But a buddy of mine's dad worked for the gas company basically like all his life. And I think he's got like a community college education. He might have his bachelor's, but I'm not sure. But he worked at the gas company. And what he did was when he went to college, he talked to his professor and he said, what's the best way to get wealthy? And his professor told him the stock market. And so from there, he started buying stocks, mutual funds, and things like that. He worked all the overtime he possibly could work, and he kept his expenses low, right? He really is, to this day, the millionaire next door. But I think after working like 30 some odd years at the Philadelphia Gas Company, he was able to retire. And I think he retired early. He retired somewhere between 50 and 55. So as a result of doing that, living below his means, he would grow his income because he would work all the overtime he got. The money he got from overtime, he threw that into investments. He didn't rob real estate. So I'm sorry to all my real estate folks, but he invested in the stock market, learned the stock market, got into the stock market very deeply. So from doing that, he was able to, again, retire early, 50, somewhere between 50 and 55. And now all he does is travel the country. He's a snowbird, and he does very well for himself. He's able to go play golf and do all the fun stuff that a lot of the seniors do. Now, I play golf too. I'm not a senior. I do love the game. I'm not a senior, but I'm not mad at him. You know, again, he had a strategy, and he worked the strategy, and he was disciplined. So that's one of the things I don't see on his list is discipline. You need discipline, right? Because nowadays we have more and more things coming at us than we've ever had before. We all are on either Facebook or Instagram right now. How many ads do you see a day? How many temptations do you see a day to make money? A whole lot. I mean, I even get caught up in some of the things that I've been looking at. They kind of follow you around. And I swear to God, they listen, because sometimes I'll have a conversation on the phone, and then the next thing I know, that ad shows up on Facebook or Instagram or Google or something, and I didn't say anything about it. So the temptation to spend money is always there. But, you know, he's an old timer. He's an elder. He was able to, again, save his money, worked overtime, took that overtime, invested it, saved it, lived beneath his means, and then he retired early. So, you know, if that's your strategy, if that's your plan, then you can work your plan. But, you know, like I said, I got 4 stages, so I'm on stage 2, wealth management. So wealth management is figuring out the best way to lower your taxes, the best way to reduce your risk, to make sure you don't lose the money that you've already gained, and just to keep it growing in the best fashion for you. And again, that's going to be customized for everybody. It's going to be different. So from there, and that's, again, these are all moving targets, right? You always have to work towards them, right? So from there, you want to figure out the best way to transfer your wealth. If that's your goal. Most of us, I know, have families. Most of us have loved ones. Most of us, if we don't have family and loved ones, we might be involved in an organization like the church or fraternity or something like that. So where do you want your money to go, and how do you get that money to your loved ones or organizations that you believe in deeply without it being tainted or overly taxed? And so a lot of times people will put in their will to give their money to the church, or people will put on their beneficiary designations on like their life insurance or their 401k or their pension. They'll leave money to the church or to their favorite sorority or fraternity. So those are the things, you know, you want to do. That's my list is different than the other one after, you know, that breakout. Like I say, anytime I talk about wealth, I also talk about it from the standpoint of legacy, building family. So transferring, how do we transfer it to the next generation? How do we make the next generation stronger? All right. And then how do we disperse it? How do we plan for the distribution of that wealth? So it's not just enough to transfer and say, hey, Junior, hey, Becky, hey, Gloria, I'm giving you some money. This is what I want you to do with it. Or this is what you want to do with it, but that's not my goal. I want to give you some direction with this money. Because a lot of times when people get large sums of money, especially if they did not grow up with money, they have no idea what to do with it. That's why most football players wind up going bankrupt after being out of the league for 3 years. That's why most lottery players or lottery winners wind up going bankrupt after they win the lottery. So, you know, there's a lot of things to this. So keep that in mind. But if anybody has any questions, I'll take some now. I don't see any. Let me scroll Instagram. Oops. Let me see. Did I see any? No, I didn't. I saw somebody asked about the Tesla numbers. I didn't quote the Tesla numbers. I want to say it's 7% of their overall staff. I have to go back and look and see exactly what it is. And I flipped the screen. Oops. So if anybody has any questions, just let me know. But one thing I'm doing to promote financial literacy is I'm going to start a financial book club. So if anybody's on Facebook or wants to go on over to Facebook, just look up the Finance Rebel Academy join my free group. It's totally free, and we're going to do a financial book club, because I find that people have questions about making money. People have questions and want to kind of tap into what I'm tapped into. Well, in order to do that, you got to kind of read and study the stuff that I'm reading and studying. So the book club will be free. The first book we're going to read is Rich Dad Poor Dad. We're going to start on February 1. So that gives everybody plenty of time to get the book, start reading the book. We're going to meet once a month, and we're going to talk about the book. So it's very simple. It's very easy to stay up to date on that. Just, again, going over to the Finance Rebel Academy over on Facebook. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, just go on over to the Finance Rebel Academy. Join the group, join the club. We get in there and we talk about money from various different angles, all from the lens of how to create wealth. So that's all I got for tonight. I'm going to go watch a little football, see what's happening. Again, like I said, I'm not too happy about my Eagles getting knocked out, but we got next year. So if anybody has any questions for me for investments, tax, small business, throw them in my inbox, send me a DM. You can catch me on Twitter, whichever way you like. Reach out. I love to answer questions. This today was a response to somebody giving me my thoughts about the article. Went a little bit longer than what I wanted and expected, but that's my response. So have a great night, everybody. I will see you all later. Have a great week. Bye-bye.